Good morning, South Africa. I am Pooja Jain from Zero and Espousal, all the way from India. A very good morning, Arvind. Glad to have you here. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Too many of these happening since the morning. Thank you so much, Pooja, and I'm so glad and happy to see you here today.
Thank you, sir. So, this is the panel number 20 who are going to talk about the spirituality in marriage. And those who have just logged in and don't know about Arvind, so here is a quick intro about him. He is the Managing Director of Zero in Management Private Limited, Chairman and CEO of Team I, the Entertainment and Media Institute. He is also a member of Public Relations Council of India, co-founder of KIMA, that is Karnataka Event Management Association. He is also a proud owner of intellectual properties such as Driven, a women's rally, DJ Amathon, Ultimate College League, and one and only espousal. So, we are proud to have you here, sir, and the stage is all yours while the panelist comes in. Thank
I didn't
you.
hear anything of what you said. Thank you, Pooja. If you can hear me, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And
Thank you.
I think we lost you out in the last couple of minutes, but no worries. A very warm morning and evening to Marilyn and to Ayanna Mills. I am so honored to be here on the same platform as you ladies. This is going to be a very, very nice experience for all of us. I'm certain about that. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll start off with a round of introductions, and we'll spend about a minute or two each to introduce ourselves. So let's start with Marilyn.
Hi. Can you hear me? Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
I am not able to hear. Are you able to hear, Ayanna? Are you able to hear
am.
Marilyn?
I can hear her.
You can?
Yes,
you
I can.
Hear her. Why am I not able to hear her? I'm going to leave and come back. Just give me a moment. I think there is some issue that I'm facing.
We'll wait. At least we can talk.
Yes. Gotta love the technology, right?
Where are you?
I am in the United States of America. I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. At least, hello, can you hear us now?
Absolutely. I'm so sorry about that glitch. Yeah, all yours, Marilyn. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I am a mother, which is always an important thing, and a grandmother. And I'm a marriage officiant. I'm also a financial advisor. And I also do bury people and bless babies and take people from this life into the next life. So I do quite a lot of death counseling as well. But I do a lot of marriages,
Superb. And we're going to hear so much more from you, Marilyn. But over to you, Ayanna Mills, and let's hear about you.
Yes, my name is Ayanna Mills, and I am actually a literary strategist. I am an 18-time Amazon bestselling author. My books are bestselling in the United States, the UK, Canada, India, Japan, and France. I am also newly married. I am a licensed, thank you. I'm a licensed and ordained evangelist. I don't actually perform any wedding ceremonies just yet, but I am a big proponent of marriage. I am a Christian, of course, and I go by the Christian faith in the Bible in terms of what it says about marriage.
Absolutely fantastic. This is getting very, very interesting already. We have a lady who's just got married, and we have somebody who's been around for so many years and talking about marriage. Yeah?
Be careful.
Just a few years.
Be careful, Ayanna. She's telling you. But Marilyn, this one is for you, and let's start with you. Which is that, so Ayanna has just got married, and so have a lot of people, okay? isn't it more about the next 50 years? It's more about the
Amen.
next 50 years. Yeah, what is going to happen?
Absolutely.
How is Ayanna Mills going to manage for the next 50 years with this absolutely gorgeous, great gentleman that she has got married to? Let's talk to
Do you-
Ayanna.
Yeah.
I love,
You know, yeah, it is about the next 50 years, but realistically speaking, on that day, in preparation up until that point, it is about that day. It is about that day. Prior to that day, we have to do marriage counseling and prepare. But as the wedding nears, I think what is on the bride's minds and everyone else's minds is the wedding. What's the day going to be like? What the experience is going to be like? What kind of memories what we have? And then after the marriage is over, then it can be solely on preparation for the next 50 years.
Right, absolutely. Bang on, Ayanna. Marilyn, over to you, and maybe you want to tell us about the next 50 years.
so I'd like to follow on from what Ayanda said. I always say at my services, my service is not magic. Nothing I say changes your relationship. It's your
Right.
relationship. It's yours to create every day anew. There's no magic formula. The words that you hear on your wedding day cannot change that. And I think that is such an important thing. I think you've got a great basis for your marriage because you made the statement, I'm a committed Christian and I'm going to live by my Christian values. So my presumption is that your spouse is also a Christian.
Yes, he is also a Christian. I do believe in being what we call equally yoked. You're equally
Yoked,
yoked.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly, exactly,
That's
exactly.
when you're still
So,
the
so,
when you're both the
so
same
I,
religion.
so I think
So
that does
this
make it a
this is
lot
yeah,
easier. I do,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, I do have a degree in comparative religion, and I think my speciality in South Africa, particularly, and I have done weddings around the world, is
Mhm.
to marry interfaith people. That is why people really come to me because they are concerned about it. So it's very common for me to marry a Hindi to a Jew
Mhm.
or a Catholic to a Buddhist or a
Oh,
Muslim to a Christian. So that's my speciality. And, a Catholic is not going to marry you to anybody else except a Catholic. So then they would come to me, and I always meet with a couple several times before I actually do their wedding because I don't do a canned marriage service. Every marriage service is about the couple, who they are, what their beliefs are, what their feelings are, who they are as a couple, what is their relationship based on. And that makes it juicy and exciting. And depending on their situation, would donate how many counseling sessions we have, or if we have a counseling session at all, in fact. But successfully, I've been marrying people for about 18 years now, and I do a lot of weddings. I do about 150 a year. And I would say mostly they are really successful cross culturally and cross religion. One can work on it if you both want to work on it. If you don't want to work on it, forget about it. And in South Africa, we have a lot of traditional religions as well. And when they marry out of their traditional faith, that is very challenging. So we often have two weddings, which I love. So I get
oh,
to, yeah. So
fantastic. I mean, this reminds me of a time, my own brother, we are Hindus from India. My own brother married a Christian girl way back about 27 years ago. And it was a fight for us in India. It was a fight. Okay. It wasn't accepted, not by the Christian family, not by the Hindu family. And this is a solution that we came up with. So we did not two, but three weddings for them.
I
Yeah.
love it.
And this,
Uh,
yeah, it's absolutely amazing, So we did the one around the pyre, and that's the way the Hindus, you
yes,
do the
yes,
7 rounds
yes,
around the
yes,
pyre, and
yes,
then a
yes.
Hindu style. And then we did a regular church wedding with the Holy Communion and all of that. And
Yes.
it was just mind blowing.
It's
And the church
beautiful.
had not
It's
seen
beautiful.
something like this. Yeah,
Yes, yes. So I
absolutely.
often
But coming
sit,
back to
yeah,
yeah, coming back, sorry, Marilyn, to this question about intercaste or interfaith weddings, right? This is a very difficult one. It's a very difficult one. People who are following a church versus a mosque or a Buddhist or a temple or what have you. Uh, some piece of advice to the brides. There are a lot of them out there right now listening to us. Uh, to the brides about how are they going to be able to make this last for the longest time.
okay. Can I answer, Ayanda, or would you like to?
Oh
I'd
yes.
like to start off by saying, so my daughter is a Christian and she's married to a Jewish man. And I do believe that you need to sort out this before your wedding date. It's hugely important because it's no good having the arguments after the marriage. These are the discussions we have to discuss before the marriage while the relationship is still going on. So I have a granddaughter who's 5. So just one story which will actually put all your questions into perspective. The other day, I assisted a Catholic priest in a funeral because I knew the person really well. So I took him a gift the next day, and it was a freezing cold day in Johannesburg. So I took my granddaughter with me, and she had a pink fluffy dressing gown on and pink fluffy slippers. And we arrived at the beautiful Catholic church, and the priest came out in his black Cossack to receive his gift. And he said, "Good morning, what is your name?" And she said, "Gabriella." "What is yours?" And he said, "Father Tabo." She said, "Hello, Father Tabo." He said, "Gabriella, are those slippers pretending to be boots or boots pretending to be slippers?" She looked at him, she said, "Father Tabo, are you a rabbi pretending to be a priest or a priest pretending to be a rabbi?" So he said, "Gabriella, are you a Christian or a Jew?" She looked at him, she said, "My daddy is a Jew, and I study Hebrew studies under Rabbi Pink. But my Moni, that's me, is a Christian. So, Father Tauber, I think I'm a Christian Jew."
Wow,
And I,
wow,
and I
wow,
think,
wow.
and,
But we must
but
quickly move on to Ayanna and take her opinion on this one because we have shortage of time and a
yes,
lot of things to discuss about this. So, Ayanna,
sure,
what is
sure.
your take on this interfaith?
My take on is that whether you're the same religion or you're on two different religions, you still have to have governing principles before you get married. Before you get
Exactly.
married, you have to say, this is how we're going to do things. These are the rules. It's just like when you play a game, there are rules to the game that must be followed. So, more importantly, you have to be in agreement. This is how we are going to do things. And this is what we will not do in order to be successful. So, that's the first thing. And, with the different religions, it makes it more challenging because you have different views. But the core views on marriage have to align in order to be
Yes,
successful. They have to align before you get married so that you can follow it throughout the marriage.
exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so important. Okay, and that's why they ask you, in the marriage. It's more to do with the two people than to do with the religion or the in-laws or the parents or the friends or everybody else, unfortunately, and at least in my country, the social stigma of a marriage, and I'll call it stigma, is very large. Okay, you need acceptance by a lot of people before two people can actually come and get married, and that's the way it is, right? But let's move on to the next question, and let's talk about let's talk about children. And what is your take on the same, Ayanna? Tell us a little bit about children and how do they make, break, or make a marriage survive?
Yes, when it comes to children, that's something else that has to be discussed beforehand. The first question is, do you want to have children? You have
Right.
to know that, because oftentimes you don't talk about that first because they're not here. And then one may assume the other one wants children, but then that may not be the case. So that's something that has to be agreed upon
Yes.
before marriage. And once the children are coming, you have to still, this is how we're going to do things. This is how we're going to raise them. They're going to go to church or they're going to go to mosque. This is how we're going to do it. And you have to agree first before.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Marilyn will
how
have a
many
long,
children?
yeah, yeah. And how many
How
children?
many? You know,
And
how
how
many children
and
do we
how
want?
far how far apart and what should they be doing and so many decisions to be made. We have Amanda Cunningham who says, "Wonderful, Marilyn."
Thank you.
So tell us more about the children bit, Marilyn.
Well, I think that people often have children for the wrong reasons. Their marriage gets into a little bit of trouble, and the wife thinks, oh, a baby will bond us, it'll bring us together. It's a good idea for me to have a baby. And I've seen that happen fairly often. And the husband is hugely angered. And instead of bringing them closer, it actually pushes them apart. So I'm in absolute agreement with Ayanna that we categorically have to be openly discussing this before we get married.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
must
yeah.
trick their husband into having a baby to bring the family together. It's not going to happen. It must be
It's not going
desired
to
by
happen.
both of the
Absolutely.
couple. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For sure, for sure. I have seen so many marriages. Children are not the solution, for sure, to marriage.
Exactly, exactly.
More often than not, they are a different story apart and why you should be and like people have children, and that's why souls in the psychology are I for great for me.
Yeah, your sound has gone very
Yeah,
peculiar. You,
can you
you sound
hear
as if you're
me?
speaking down a tunnel.
Oh, where is the tunnel? Where is the tunnel? Better.
So maybe we can continue the conversation, Marilyn.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
Uh,
So
I,
I do
I
agree
lo-
with you.
and I
I
think
agree
it's
with
very
you regarding
sad
the
because it,
children.
yeah, then the children are brought into the middle of an international incident between two parents who actually don't want to be together. And then they stay together for the children. And
Yeah.
ultimately, it's an unhappy environment. We see distressed children going for all kinds of therapies. The parents should never have stayed together, but they do because they now have children. And the therapist gets to make a lot of money in trying to heal them.
Hmm.
And I haven't read any of your books, but I will. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that some of them, I'm categorically going to Google you immediately. And I hope that some of them are about raising children. You know,
Yes, they are.
I've had orphanage, good. I've had orphanages for most of my life as a sort of a side thing. And a lot of those orphans come from marriages that have done exactly that, where the parents actually abandon the children after being forced into having children. And they won't give them up for adoption, but they also don't want them in the home. So these poor children are then left in an unnatural orphanage rather than in a loving home because a parent was manipulative in having them, which is very sad.
Extremely sad. And I
Very
hope you
sad.
can hear me now. Extremely
Yes, we
sad.
can hear you now.
You're
We can
back.
hear
You're
you.
back.
Whoa.
You're back.
This is the only problem of trying to do something virtual because you have control over most things but technology.
It's okay. It happens. We
Yeah.
all are aware.
Yeah. But yeah, like
You
I was
see,
saying
you're a
earlier,
man, so you like to be in control.
ah,
We
we got to
used to
take
not being in control.
we got to take this offline, Marilyn.
She said that, not me.
Oh God! So you're doing so many weddings, Marilyn. You're doing so many weddings, 150 weddings a year.
Yes.
What sort of weddings do you do? And do you actually meet and counsel these couples earlier?
Yes, 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 absolutely. I did 6 last week. I'm
Oh
actually
wow!
sitting at the airport talking to you because I had to fly to Joburg to do a funeral yesterday, and I've got a wedding this afternoon in Cape Town. So I've just landed, and I quickly slipped into a coffee shop so that I could quickly talk to you before I go and get ready for my wedding. So, as the celebrant, the minister that's going to marry them, I am an ordained minister, but I don't always do, obviously, Christian weddings. I do other weddings. I always ask the bride and groom about their color scheme, and then I dress accordingly. I'll wear what the bridesmaids are wearing or the groomsmen so that I look similar and I don't stick out in the photographs. And I try and get their personality and their vibe so that the wedding begins in the correct vein. And I think that's usually important, that the wedding begins in the correct vein.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's such a
Uh,
happy thing to do because you're always around positive energy and it's joyful.
right, right. We come to Ayanna and ask her a more point blank question. So we are talking about spirituality in a relationship, in a marriage, right? How deep does this spirituality have to be? Is it possible that you think, and we are not talking religion or faith here, we are talking about the way of life. Is it possible that you believe in something else spiritually and your partner believes in something else, and yet you are able to be spiritually tied together? Because one of the 7 criteria, as per our Hindu custom, for a couple is that they have to be spiritually together. What is your take, Ayanna, on this?
Yeah, I do. I do think that you can still be spiritually together because there's something that draws you to one another. It doesn't mean you have to agree on everything, but you are connected for a reason. So that force that brings you together, that connects you, you have to focus on that also. Not just the religion, but the spirituality, what draws you together, because then you're able to maybe turn down an argument from happening, or you're able to understand the other one's perspective when it comes to communication. So you do have to listen kind of internally to try to make it work out so that all fighting is minimized and that so that you are walking the same path together. So it can be done, but those spirits do need to align and you gotta focus on it, the core of it, which is why you're together anyway.
Absolutely. Marilyn, I have noticed that intercaste or interfaith marriages 20 years ago in our country, in India, they didn't work. But today, more and more of interfaith marriages are working much more than intrafaith. How's it out there? And give us an example of people that you are dealing with. What is it that really works?
This, so I have a really good friend who is an Anglican minister, a very famous one. She's very senior in the Anglican Church in South Africa, and she's married to a Guruji, which
Wow.
is pretty unusual. And that for me was like quite a shock because I was like, sure, why? And she says, Marilyn, we love each other so much, and we've been able to organize our thinking and our discussions in a manner which has enriched both of us to such an enormous amount, and tolerant, and us bound together in love. We understand each other's religion, and they're one of the happiest couples I know. They've been together for about 14 years now. Sadly, they haven't been able to have children. They have tried, but they have a rich, diverse, exciting, happy marriage, which is beautiful.
Absolutely.
And another marriage that I did was with a very, very, very cultural South African gentleman who married a very, very, very westernized Catholic girl. And the parents were like, whoa, because, the one wedding was the white wedding and the other one was the slaughtering of the cow. And it's a little tenuous and a little tense. But, sorry, just fell up. But once they'd worked out the understanding of why each other do what they do, the marriage has been amazing. Sadly, he's actually just died, the young man. He was only 32, and
So
not of
sorry.
corona. But I'm saying this because of the whole funeral situation. Yeah. So, of course, marriages and funerals are also different in different cultures.
Right.
And it's your 30-year-old child that's died. You want your child buried in your fashion.
Right.
And the wife, it's her beloved, and they've been together since they were 20, so that's 12 years. So she wanted it done in her tradition. So then you have to get involved and you have to help the debate. But we managed to sort it out in a very amicable way. Everybody's happy. So it all
Absolutely.
depends on the humans that are involved. I think we like to blame faith and religion, but it's actually us. It's actually our own egos that get in the way. And if we can put our egos aside and concentrate on our God that we worship, it's not such a terrible thing. It's about our egos and our opinions that cause the friction.
Right. 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 So people are getting married for so many reasons, okay, and most of them, sorry to say, are getting married for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, and that's where all the problems are coming up. And like I said earlier, psychologists, psychiatrists, marriage counselors are are really. I mean, all people are going to these kind of for professional help. Why are people getting married? What is that reason for people to get married? Why cannot they just live together and live happily ever after? Aina, all yours.
Well, in a lot of religions, you can't just live together and not be married. You have to be married. And a lot of those people get married for the wrong reasons, but they want to have children. So in order to have children, you have to get married. So there's something within the people that's broken. A lot of times they feel like they are not incomplete. They feel like they are incomplete, and that the marriage will complete them. So they want to get married. So they do it. And it's just like what I say is that you're not looking for your other half. You're whole and complete already. you have to be two wholes to come together, not two halves. So that's the problem. But all in all, regardless of what the reason
Amen.
is to get, yeah, whatever the reason is that people get married, they still have to honor their commitment to one another, regardless of why they got married.
True, true. But you can have that commitment without marriage. And let's hear this from Marilyn. Can you have that commitment to a human being without being married,
Yeah.
without having a document in place?
So it's an interesting question, because in South Africa, there are a lot of marriages that have no documents. Okay? So it's merely traditional marriages, and we do recognize that as marriage, although there's no contract.
Right.
So it's not always a contractual affair. I believe that the real reason that people get married is because it's a covenantal relationship that you want to enter into. It's the joining together of two hearts and two souls. And a big difference between signing a contract and entering into a covenant. A contract is all for the purchase of goods for which money has to be paid. In contract, there's conditions attached, like if you do this, then I'll do that. In contract, there's always an end of time. It's for 2 years, for 3 years, 4 years, there's a time frame on it. A covenantal relationship doesn't have those rules. Well, in South Africa, there is often payment to be made. We call it labor. But it's not for a fixed time. And it's always for the benefit of the other person. And most importantly, in covenantal relations, it requires forgiveness. But several years ago, I went to Finland to go and see the bishop of the head of the church there. And she was a lady, which was quite interesting. And I said to her, it was about 24 years ago, and I said to her, do you have lots of marriages? She said, marriages? I can't remember when last conducted a marriage. What are you talking about? She said, no. In Finland, we draw up parenting contracts. People come to the church for a blessing, but to have that blessing, they have a parenting contract drawn up first, because they found that the rate of divorce was so high in their country that the children were the ones suffering because what was going to happen to the children. So up front, before the church would do a blessing, there had to be a parenting contract. I've never heard of that before. That was quite foreign to me, but interesting.
Very interesting and very amazing. I mean, I am learning so many things that I'm going to pass on to so many people. I love this whole idea of a parenting contract. I'm just loving it. But let's quickly, we have a couple of minutes more before we need to close the session. And thank you so much, ladies, for being here with me today. But Ayanna, quickly, how important do you think is the pre-marriage or the pre-wedding counseling?
Ooh, the premarital counseling is very important. One of the most important things. A lot of things you don't think about when you're getting married. You think about the ceremony, you think about the flowers, the decor, but there are things in the marriage that you may not think about. Your credit, your health, what your plans are when you are leaving this world. So many factors that are not common conversational topics that marriage counseling, premarital counseling will bring to the forefront. So premarital counseling is a must. You have to do it.
Okay, so it is a necessity. Like in my country, this is still very foreign. Okay, couples meet, get married, and the rest is history. But Marilyn, over to you. How important, and you do a lot of this, right? How important is this for, and how much does it add to making a marriage last? I think
I wish
Marilyn.
I had the statistics to give you the actual real statistics. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Am I still there? Good.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes, perfect. So a lot of my couples, will say, we've been together for 12 years, we know each other really well, we're not interested in counseling. Others will say, there's one or two things we'd like to discuss with you. Others want several counseling sessions. I often, depending on their religion, on their faith, I will often point them to their church or their parish who runs Alpha for marriage. The Catholic Church have a very specific marriage course that they run. The Jews have very specific marriage courses that they run. We all work together with pastors, but I also do offer marriage counseling myself. And I don't do group marriage counseling, although I do feel there's a lot of merit in that. And then I would send them to a congregation where they do Alpha for marriage, which is a magnificent course. And you can then see how other couples interact on the course, and you learn a lot from them as well. Otherwise, I'll do one-on-one with a couple for a couple of sessions before the wedding. It also helps me to get to know them better. I do refuse to do weddings, so if I meet with a couple of times and I think this is really bad news, I will suggest that they rethink the wedding. And
Oh,
I'm not
that
prepared to do it.
that
And they
is
may be a
so
little angry with me.
nice.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That is so nice. I mean, this
Because
is
if
this
you can
is
see
stuff.
really, really hectic things, yeah.
Wow,
Right
wow.
in the beginning of my career, a couple had only known each other for a few weeks, and they were getting married, and I was red flag, red flag, red flag, and oh, they were so in love, and they were not children; they were both in their 50s, so they were not
Oh,
children,
oh,
and they refused my advice, and they got married. And within about 10 months, he actually committed suicide.
oh my God.
And
Okay.
that just taught me a lesson. Don't do it.
That was
If the
my
red
next question,
flags are
Marilyn.
up, don't do
That was
it.
my next question. That was my next question to you. Is that, when people come for pre-marriage counseling, and if you're getting red flagged and you're going to tell them that no, this is not a good idea, I wonder how many of them really hear you out because they are so in
It's not a
love
good idea.
that time.
And it's a scary thing, I'll tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
because I just got married. You're nervous that what if they say that we shouldn't get married? So, really, the rule of thumb is you should do the counseling
Yeah.
before you start preparing for the wedding, just to make sure, because some spiritual people will not marry you if they do not feel like it's a good fit. So, you should do it before you plan the wedding. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing.
yeah, yeah. It is very scary. I mean, in my country, these things are still very new and far apart. Yeah. But on that note, Ayanna Mills, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you
And
very
thank you, Marilyn. Thank you so much. I know you're at an airport. You have taken out the time for us. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure this session is going to teach a lot to the brides, a lot to the people who want to get married. This has been amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.